Well, the days are a little bit shorter and the air is just a tad bit crisper. We've arrived at November. Hello everybody, I'm Mark Thomas and you've arrived at Uniquely Bristol. This is the monthly television show that talks about the hidden gems and small town values of Bristol, Connecticut. It's shown every month on Nutmeg Television and brought to you by the Bristol Development Authority, the BDA. One of the highlights of the holiday season is the Holiday Showcase of Stars here in Bristol, but we'll talk about that in a minute. As you can see, we are an icon in Bristol, one of the hidden gems, the Bristol Historical Society. Besides telling about the rich history of the All Hearts City, it's also one of the favorite places of Bristol's first female mayor, Ellen Zoppo-Sassu. History was made last November when Bristol's first female mayor was elected, and now is setting the direction of the All Hearts City's future. It's not every day you get to interview the boss, so Mayor, thank you so much for taking time with us. Now, a year ago, you were celebrating a great victory of being the first female mayor of Bristol. Are you surprised it took that long to have a female mayor?
In some ways I am. We became a city in 1913, and here we are standing in the Military Museum celebrating World War I and the exhibit.
Spinning, isn't it?
That was right around the time women received the right to vote. And fast forward 100 years later, Bristol elected its first woman mayor.
So that's terrific, and you're right. We're at the Bristol Historical Society. This is near and dear to your heart because before you're mayor, you've spent hundreds of hours helping nonprofits around town. Why should Bristol or somebody in Bristol care about the Bristol Historical Society and other nonprofits?
So we're really fortunate here at the Bristol Historical Society that not only are we the caretakers of Bristol's story and that history that happens every day and continues to happen, but we are also home to the Bristol Sports Hall of Fame and the Memorial Military Museum. So as we stand here in the Jack Dennehy Gallery, it's one of those things where we all are tied together by parts of a community, whether you are a standout athlete at Bristol High School, whether you're at Bristol Eastern right now, whether you were in the armed forces during World War I, or whether you're serving today. Those are the ties that bind our community together, and I think these nonprofits are here for posterity to tell that story for future generations.
There have been a lot of great changes over the past year to the Historical Society. What are some of those?
So we have spent, since acquiring this building in 2002, we have spent the last decade, piece by piece, rebuilding what is one of the architectural gems here on Federal Hill. It straddles our historic district and downtown. It was our first high school, and it was quickly outgrown due to the Industrial Revolution. But this building really, I think, represents what people feel so strongly about in terms of our architectural history. We spent most of the 1960s tearing down downtown. And in a lot of people's hearts, they felt that the soul of the community vanished with that. So we have very few buildings that remain from that era. And so I think that there's been a large amount of coalescing around these pieces in order to maintain them and find a new home for them and a reuse. And this one, I think over the past 15 years, we've succeeded in literally brick by brick, rebuilding it, rebranding it, bringing in new partners, and making a state-of-the-art facility.
Well, and you can kind of get a sense that, this doesn't look like some local museum. This is professionally done, displayed, and really tells a story about, a lot of the military and veteran history of our city.
Well, Bristol has a really strong passion for its veterans, and Jack Dennehy started the Memorial Military Museum in 1976 as part of the bicentennial celebration, and it's endured since then. As I mentioned, he had to move it here when the armory closed in the post 9/11 movement, where all armories were closed to the public. And now his widow, Carol Dennehy, and his family has continued on his mission.
We could talk about this all day. Why don't we talk about the last year and go into the library? Ellen has many different initiatives she's concentrating on, and they all have one thing in common: making Bristol a great place to live, work, and play. So Mayor, now we're in the library. There's so many aspects to the Historical Society that I don't think people know. We're surrounded by books that have nothing to do with Bristol in our area. It really is kind of a collaboration of a lot of people having input into the society, isn't it?
It is. We have a strong manufacturing history, so you can find a lot of information there. We have street indexes. We have all of the directories, so if you were interested in genealogy or research on your house, you could come see who lived in it 100 years ago. And it's also a great repository for all of the businesses that made up Bristol 100 years ago or more, with all the ads and memorabilia.
Well, I'm looking at the Muzzy, Bristol, largest development in the state, and I know that you're is it a foster mother, or you coordinate the out-of-town players who have nowhere else to stay?
Right, so our Bristol Blues come in every summer, and about half of the roster needs to have host homes in order to make that team successful and contain the cost. So I've been coordinating the host family programs since they came here 4 years ago.
You do sleep, right?
Sure.
Let's talk about the past year. What has been the biggest surprise in your first year as mayor?
Well, I think I would have to say that the amount of paperwork, even in today's day of technology, there's still so many signatures required and hard copies, and just really the bureaucracy attached with getting things done. Sometimes even a myriad number of committees that something has to go to before it can be actually enacted. And I think that and the amount of time it takes on a daily basis, where I'd rather be doing other things, has really been the biggest surprise and disappointment that I can't move things along.
Let's talk a little bit about what you were talking about in the Military Museum. A lot of big and positive movement for the Memorial Boulevard School.
Yes. Representative Chris Siogas was able to secure a $55 million grant with school construction money that had been turned back by 2 other communities that couldn't complete their projects. So Bristol was definitely in the right place at the right time, and we were able to kind of switch gears a little bit away from a community arts theater-based building to an arts magnet school that will service Bristol students predominantly, and if spaces were available, we would open it up to surrounding communities. But the most exciting part of that is the theater. We have a state-of-the-art theater there with a historic balcony, flyover space, and all kinds of amenities. And with a little bit of refurbishment, that could really be a gem. And one of the reasons I've been so interested in this project for the last 4 or 5 years is that I really do believe that, especially with the backdrop of the failed Renaissance project and some other programs that have been non-starters, I do believe a community theater can be a catalyst for downtown. And once you have a destination, people are going to be looking for other things, whether it's restaurants or a place to have coffee and dessert after a show. Those types of spillover economic factors will come into play. You know, one of the best memories I have of that recent task force and how we got things done in order to move it to the next part is the cleanup day. We decided to do some trial shows to really see if having that theater would attract a venue of people that would come and pay. So we did a cleanup day, and we advertised it and invited people to come. And we had over 200 people show up that day, and they ranged in age from 8 years old to 80 years old, people who had actually attended and graduated from that school as a high school. And it really spoke to me in that I really firmly believed that people would get around and support the reuse of that building based on the nostalgic connection, never mind the fact that it sits on the gateway of the Memorial Boulevard and as an entryway to downtown.
Let's talk about some more rejuvenation. The farmers market was bigger and better this year. How did that happen, and what do you see for the future of the farmers market?
You know, the farmers market was an interesting piece for me because I looked at it in a couple of different ways. Back to what I said about urban renewal, people really felt as if the heart and soul of downtown had been ripped out. There was no gathering place. There was no central location. And I thought that in a small microcosm type of way, if we could get people thinking about coming downtown on a Saturday, that's going to start hopefully a rhythm of future businesses. So now people are coming downtown on a Saturday for more than just buying stamps. And I'm thinking eventually that farmers market can grow. As we sell off parcels on downtown, we're going to probably have to look at different locations. But it also showed me that there's some other interesting aspects of a farmer's market that I wasn't aware of. One, we're helping small businesses grow and find a market. And Real Cafe is the best example of that. Nobody knew anything about Eduardo and his coffee beans from Colombia.
He is so pro-Bristol.
He is, and until he started coming to the market. And again, it was one of those examples of if you show people what your product is, they will want it. And he took a couple of Saturdays off while he was working on some of his packaging and promotional, and we had angry people looking for their coffee and wondering where that booth was. So I think that having some opportunities for that, we actually have somebody coming this Saturday who's going to be doing maple syrup that he taps here in Bristol. So lots of interesting, innovative opportunities for new businesses or startup businesses.
A little bit more serious note, one of the things that you campaigned on and you've actually worked on for years is about the ever-growing crisis about opioids. Where do we stand in Bristol, and have we made any kind of progress?
I think we have made small pieces of progress, and I think the first most important piece is removing the stigma so that you can actually have a community conversation. Right. We have people who are suffering from opioid addiction, whether it's pills or they've moved on to heroin, or there's just chronic abuse of any other types of drugs within the community. We have people in place and programs in place to help them, but people need to ask for the help and they have to be able to commit to getting the help. We have families that have been struggling with loved ones for years, and they don't know where to go as well. So the task force is comprised of people from across the gamut. It's healthcare providers, it's family members who are struggling with loved ones, it's people in recovery, it's people who offer services and counseling, it's people who understand the data, and it's also people who have alternative methods to manage pain, which is a big piece of it. I can't even tell you the number of stories I've heard from older people, and actually the people who are dying in Bristol are older white men between the ages of 35 and 50. If you look at the chief medical examiner's reports, that's the demographic. So it's not young people who got hooked on marijuana and then proceeded into heroin. It's not poor people. It's not just people who have mental health issues. It's everybody. But the largest growing segment are people who are addicted to their pain pills. And that could be because of a knee surgery, back injury, all of these things. And they try to get off of them, but there's no appropriate alternative ways to get off. So we've added people to the task force, like Dr. Glenn Palmisano, who's a chiropractor, counseling, acupuncture, all different types of things to let people know that there's options. So the community conversation piece is the biggest piece. Knowing where to go for help is the second biggest piece. And so we've created a brochure that are going to be distributed by first responders. So if a police officer, ambulance, or even a fire department member is at a scene and there's a suspected overdose, there's a flyer that they can leave on the kitchen table or the hall table so that when that family or people that care for this person who's had an opioid episode come home, there's something for them to reference.
This is a nationwide problem, so it's not unique to Bristol.
It's not unique to Bristol, but one of the startling data pieces that I saw when I was still working at the Connecticut Pharmacists Association before I was elected was that in Bristol, in calendar year, I believe it was 2016, we had over 150,000 prescriptions written for pain meds. For a community that does not have a pain clinic attached to its hospital, those are startling stats, and we need to also deal with our prescribing physicians for them to understand that there's alternative methods as well.
You brought up an election, you just get through your first year, and in a couple of months you're going to be thinking about, I'm assuming, that being reelected. Is 2 years the right amount for a term for mayor? I mean, can you really get anything done? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I think you can get things done, but I will tell you that is an exhausting process.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate to have a very proactive and working city council, so it's been very easy to delegate big pieces of policy, big pieces of appearances, coverage of meetings, and all of the community appearances that people want their city officials to be at to the 6 members of the city council. I do believe that there's probably time right now, if we do another charter revision, to talk about the fact that a 4-year term would be appropriate. I think they touched upon it last year, but there's some ancillary issues. How do we do the Board of Ed, which is a staggered term now with 4-year terms? What would we do with the council? Would we move to at-large? Would we stay with districts? And frankly, I think if we're going to have a conversation about a 4-year term for mayor, the city is also poised to have the conversation about whether a city manager is a better form of government.
I've got to ask the obvious questions. What do you think your biggest achievement was, and maybe what your biggest disappointment is, and what do you see as one of the major challenges ahead in the next couple of years for Bristol?
I would have to say that one of the biggest accomplishments is really calming the waters at City Hall with the toxicity levels being somewhat high over the last couple of years. We have great employees. 95% of the people come to work every day and want to do a fantastic job. The 5% that don't, we've been working with. And obviously, we want everyone to be productive. I think that collaboration between management and the unions is huge. I am sick and tired of people dumping on the backs of city employees as if they are the bane of our existence or the source of our financial problems.
Or stereotyped. I've run into that, yeah.
Whether it's state employees or city employees, it's just completely unfair. And the example that I can point to is one of the biggest accomplishments is coming out of a budget that the new controller and I both inherited that we did not create, that 4 months into it had a $4 million deficit. So not only did we have to dig out of a deficit, but also had to prepare for the next year. And with the help of the unions, specifically the police and the fire unions, they came to the table and we did an entire reorganization of our pension reporting system, which saved us $4.6 million coming into this budget year, but over the next 15 years could possibly save the city, its taxpayers, $50 million easily, just a round number, because we don't have to contribute to our pensions anymore because we've balanced it with one actuarial report. Now that doesn't mean that we're not contributing or that we're not maintaining our pensions, but we have one of the best rated pension systems in the state, probably the country. And now we're using it as an asset. We're putting that money to work to benefit the taxpayers and having money available to us for other programs or potentially tax relief if the state doesn't prove to be a stable fiscal partner.
Well, and another thing is Bristol is one of the very few towns that have really high ratings from the rating bureaus in Connecticut because our state is having serious issues. So when people look around the state, Bristol's got to stick out because of that, I would think.
We do, and even with all of the challenges that we've had, in October last month, we maintained both of our high ratings with Fitch and Standard & Poor's.
And that's good news. Our brand is we are the All Hearts City, and if you look at the volunteers, the dedication and the thankless hours, the Mum Festival Committee, and everybody that's involved with that really embodies what Bristol is.
They do, and some of my earliest memories are sitting on the curb on North Main Street watching the parade with my family and cousins, and I think that those are the memories that connect people back to their hometown no matter where they end up in their life.
You made history as the first female mayor. Here we are in the Historical Society. I guess we just keep writing history and going on.
I hope so.
Mayor, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
To learn more about all the services supplied by the City of Bristol, go to www.ci.bristol.ct.us. Each year, the Holiday Showcase of Stars ushers in the holiday season in Bristol with a wide variety of singing, dancing, and comedy by local talent of all ages. The event is a charity affair supervised by Maria Solis and Debbie Shore. Debbie, you're kind of the director and the overall. Give us a little bit about the history and the Holiday Showcase and exactly what it means.
Sure. The history is that a group of alumni, parishioners, and volunteers from the community came together for the old St. Anthony's Grammar School as a fundraiser. And we decided we wanted to do something fun. We decided we wanted to do something that would kick off the holiday season for everyone in the community. And that's when it was born.
So how many years have we been doing this now?
This will be the 15th.
Yeah.
So that's just amazing. Have you both always been involved in it?
Yes. Yes, both of us.
And so you mentioned the school. Let's talk a little bit about the school and what this fundraiser, because that's what it is besides, a great community event. What does it mean to the school?
It means a lot financially to them, and it means a lot for marketing. If you get 500 people, 600 people come to this show, some of them bring their children. Some of them bring little children who are looking for a school. What a great event to promote your school, to promote Catholic education. It now, with St. Anthony's closing, now all the funds go to St. Joseph's and St. Matt's.
Let's talk a little bit about the kids, because that's got to be the fun part for everybody involved. And Maria, you've done the Mum Festival, so you've worked with all types. How does this compare?
Well, this is why I come back year after year, is to work with the kids, really. With the Mum Festival, we don't have a kids choir,
right.
Obviously. So it's my chance, and I'm not a music teacher, but I love music, and I like to teach music and to spread that, enthusiasm, and this is like my little way of being able to do that. And these kids that come back year after year are just a lot of fun. Everybody loves Christmas music. It's a nice mix of kids. It's not only the children that go to the school,
Correct.
St. Joseph's or St. Matthew's. We're also involving children from the community, so you don't necessarily have to be a Catholic school student to be involved with the Christmas, with the Showcase of Stars.
So we're here in the guided hall, and we're during practice, and we're kind of in the middle of practice, and we see the kids, and just to see them smile, it's got to be a lot, because you don't teach at the Mum Festival. You're kind of teaching them new songs, and really kind of, I think for a lot of them, doing traditions.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We teach them the traditional songs that, you hear, all the Christmas carols, but we throw in a lot of music that's inspirational in nature, as opposed to, it's all related to
The real reason for
the
Christmas.
real reason for
Yeah.
Christmas.
Sometimes we forget that, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's nice when you teach them something. Like we were working on Silver Bells, and they just kind of know that. So it's a little bit intuitive. They hear it all the time. But then we also we try to throw in something fun and new that they can learn too, so it keeps them sort of interested. And then they're like sponges. They're a lot better than the adults who teach them their music. The kids just, from week to week, they just seem to just
It's remarkable.
get it. They just get it. They're sponges.
And it's not an hour and a half or so of singing either, is it? There's
no.
a lot of different things. You were talking last year about, was it a dance medley?
We
or-
have phenomenal dancers. We have always said our dance numbers seem to set us apart from other shows that may be similar. Superb dancing. We do a comedy act, which is usually pretty funny. But the spirit comes from the children. There's no doubt. There's true spirit. When you see them the first night, they rehearse here every week. The first time they go to St. Paul's on the big stage is remarkable.
It's gotta be a little shocking.
They are so taken back.
Right, you always tell the parents when they're sitting here watching, them rehearse in a church hall, and then it gets, it doesn't translate until they get to the stage. So then there's the rehearsal. the few
Becomes
days
very real.
It does, and then,
Yes.
but you know what? It really just, every year I get that moment where
Yeah.
the curtain opens and the kids are standing there in their, beautiful dresses and their shirt and tie and the decorations, and
It's
it's
true.
like, what just happened? To go from here to there is like night and day.
It's a miracle.
Yep.
It really is.
Well, and that's
It's
the
your
true
Christmas
meaning.
miracle.
There we go, the true meaning of Christmas.
Exactly.
So Debbie, tell us a little bit about what's going to happen this year. You always have a theme, and give us a little sneak peek, if you will, about what's going to happen.
Maria actually came up with the theme. Maria and I joke that once we hit about August in the calendar, our brains sync and we start to read each other's minds. And this year she came up with the theme actually a year ago. And you can probably talk about that.
Okay, so I was sitting in my living room watching Savannah Guthrie and Al Roker on NBC light the Rockefeller Christmas tree. And I texted you and I said, okay, I've got an idea for the show. Why don't we do something kind of leading up to the lighting of our own, Rockefeller Christmas tree, and then maybe do something like, Christmas in the City.
Remarkable set, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
That Sue Berard is building probably as we speak.
Yep.
She's remarkable.
She asked us to come up with a theme early so that she could kind of conceptualize and get that going early, and she's
Yes.
been working on that all year.
She is creating a Rockefeller Center tree.
Wow. I think you both would be first to admit that you guys do a ton of work, but you have a lot of help too.
Yes. Our core group originated with us, and that would be Jack and Joanne Ferraro. Jack does a lot of advertising work for us. Joanne does a lot of coordinating. Then there's Joan and Pete Pelkey, who do all the advertising work, running around town, getting all the ads for us, placing the signs. We have Teresa Scalia, who does our beautiful program every year. We have Sue and Paul Berard, who work tirelessly on the sets. They're amazing. You'll see them this year. They're amazing.
Sue is so creative. She's also helped with costumes and
Yeah.
yeah.
And then they sing in the choir also.
It
And
takes
we're
a
also
village.
happy, yes, it does take a village, and it also takes new blood, because we get tired. So it takes new blood, and
Well, it's nice to be able to, just bring new people into the show, because it just keeps giving the show new life and, new perspectives.
New spirit.
So, for example, we had Kristen Ginty,
Dina
or Kristen
Calderoni, and Millie Vibert
and
for 3
all
years.
For a long
Many
time
years.
helping with choreography and with the kids, but now they went on and did other things and moved and went to school and got married and all of that. How dare they? But anyway, so we replaced
with Belle Pons,
Belle Pons.
who is a senior in high school and who
Yeah,
choreographs the
senior in high school.
amazing numbers.
This is her third year doing that. So she started as a sophomore in high
Sophomore.
school choreographing a huge production. It's a
production
huge
numbers.
production number. And then to bring in some new blood for, from on the musical side, I have Spencer Malley, who is he's a senior at University of Connecticut. He's a music major. He'll be a teacher. He's going to be well known here, hopefully, in
Well,
this
let's talk
community.
about that.
So-
There is a wide range of people and I mean, that performers that make this happen.
Yes.
How young are they and how old are they?
The youngest one this year is 4.5, right?
Yes, 4 years old is the youngest. The youngest we've ever had is 3.
Yeah.
Many times. We've had many 3-year-olds. I
Well,
see
not counting-
some sitting there,
They've all
work their way
filtered
up.
in as we've been
Yeah.
talking.
And also, the
no.
oldest we ever had was close to 80.
Yep. So yeah.
So let's talk about the date again. Let's talk about the ticket prices and more importantly, where can people go get a ticket to see this great show?
It's December 1st, Saturday evening, 7 o'clock.
At St. Paul's
At
High
St.
School.
Paul, yeah. And you may,
Another great partner for us.
Yes, amazing.
St. Paul's, Carrie
Carrie DuPont is
Great
God
facility,
sent.
everything,
He's a
so,
guardian
yeah.
angel for
They,
us.
yes.
Without
They're-
Carrie, there's no
without St.
Showcase of
Paul's,
Stars.
Right, exactly.
So if people want to know more, how can they learn a little bit more?
They can learn a little bit more from going on our Facebook page, and I'm constantly posting on Facebook, and as we get closer and closer, I'm really constantly posting, almost annoyingly. But you can find out, tickets will be sold at Shannon's Jewelers. They are sold after masses at both churches,
Oh, good.
starting, about in 2 weeks.
Okay.
They are also sold at both schools. And once you go on the Facebook page, you'll see other contact numbers. We're all reachable, and we will run tickets to you if we have to.
Well-
And tickets are available at the door. I always tell people we're getting closer and closer to a sellout every year, so you take your chances, but they are available.
Over 500, I think, last year.
Yes.
So I mean, it's very
Yep.
popular, and if history tells us anything, it's going to be fabulous.
It's a great way to start
It is.
to kick off the holiday
It is,
season.
and
Yep.
it's a great way to share the true spirit of the season with everyone. And my feeling is if we touch one heart in that production that night, our job is done.
I got a feeling you're teaching a lot more and reaching a lot more people than you ever know. It's good.
Thank you.
Ladies, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having us. Yep.
Thanks for having us.
So that's it for Uniquely Bristol. We appreciate you joining us each month. Got a story idea or maybe another comment? Our email address is marketing@bristolct.gov. We're also on social media at LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Have a good fall, and we'll see you next month.